Welcome to our July 2023 Baltic cruise on Sky Princess. Starting in Southampton and calling at Gdynia, Visby, Tallinn, Helsinki, Stockholm, Warnemünde, Aarhus, Copenhagen and Kristiansand. As usual, we caught a train down to Southampton and spent the night in Premier Inn West Quay. In the morning we caught a taxi to the Mayflower terminal, spotting the ship along the way. We had a very quick registration, they only needed to see our passports. So I can see I'm not leaving you behind. Careful. Apart from the next two, we need to do that. We arrived on board at about 12:20. As soon as we got on board, we had our photo taken. We had a package which included unlimited downloads. Our stateroom wasn't ready yet, so we went on deck.
Having to wait for our stateroom to be ready, so we're having a margarita up on the pool deck. 1st of May.
After an announcement, we went to our stateroom at about 1:15 and found that one of our cases was already there. We then did our muster and went back to our stateroom where there was a complimentary glass of champagne. The rest of our cases turned up at about 3 p.m. and we unpacked. At 3:45 we went up on deck for sail away. Jill had a Sprite and a margarita, which for some reason was served in a pint glass. I had a couple of bottles of Corona. We had a nice conversation with two people from Wiltshire. At 5:30 we went for a meal in the Soleil main dining room. For starters, we both had a cold soup. We followed this with fettuccine alfredo. During the meal I had a rather nice Malbec. Jill had a strawberry daiquiri. For the main course, Jill had New York strip steak and I had pork medallions. For pud, Jill had lychee, raspberry and rose mousse and I had vanilla mascarpone and blueberry cremo. I finished the meal with a glass of port and Jill had a Baileys. Afterwards, we went to see the comedian Jeff Stevenson in the theatre. He was okay, but we wouldn't go out of our way to see him again. As part of the introduction by the cruise director, he said that there were 3,800 passengers, of which 1,087 were Americans, 100 Canadians and 100 Australians. Afterwards, we wandered round the ship for a while before returning to our stateroom for the night. We were supposed to put our clocks forward overnight, but we forgot, so breakfast in our cabin arrived earlier than expected. After briefly taking part in a ring toss competition, we headed to the Gdansk and Visby destinations presentation in the theatre. We then went to the Vista Lounge for the cruise long trivia competition. We scored 13 out of 15. Afterwards, it was back to the theatre for the Tallinn and Helsinki destinations presentations. Up on deck, we had some chips and then had a look around the top 3 decks. Next, we went for a trivia quiz, Let's Quiz Again, in the Vista Lounge. We scored 16 out of 20, the winners scored 19. In the evening we went for a meal in Sabatini's, which ran to 6 courses. This proved to be a little too much for us, and afterwards we headed back to our room and called it a day. When we awoke the next morning, we could just see Sweden in the distance. We knew we would be going under the Storbæltsbroen, so we headed up on deck to get a good view of it. The Storbæltsbroen means the Great Belt Bridge. It isn't the famous bridge that goes between Denmark and Sweden, which we saw on a previous cruise. This one joins the island that Copenhagen is on to the mainland. We had an ice cream from Swirls. After the previous evening's meal, we didn't yet feel ready for a premium dessert. Today you can run at any speed you like along the jogging track because there's nobody up here. There's nobody in the hot tubs. And there's nobody on the sunbeds. Well, we're all blankied up waiting for it to go under the bridge, and hopefully, well, the captain said about 12 o'clock, but the weather is so foul it might be a bit later than that.
Must be from England, you two. We'd find the Americans down here.
The weather got steadily worse and we headed back to our cabin for the passage under the bridge. In the evening we headed to Princess Live for a music quiz and several cocktails. This was followed by the Red or Black game show, which was a which came first quiz. For example, which came first, the pop-up toaster or sliced bread? We found that we were currently lying second in the cruise long trivia. Having not eaten much during the day, we were finally hungry enough to visit the buffet. We headed out on deck for a while where quite a lot of people were watching a film on the big screen. Back in our room, we had a late night snack before heading to bed. Next morning, we would be in Gdynia. Thanks for watching. We'd be very grateful if you liked and subscribed.